What should you do when you meet a high-level mistress? This is a question I've been pondering for over 3 months. Why? Because I've met one. She's a classmate my husband met in his EMBA program, beautiful, intelligent, and a successful entrepreneur. She could have been the heroine of a powerful woman drama, but sadly, she chose the shortcut. Honestly, we could have coexisted peacefully. She could have taken resources from my husband, and as long as she didn't touch my core interests, I could have tolerated her. But now, I sense my husband is planning to divorce me, and that I will not tolerate. Young ladies, before you judge me for having this first wife mentality, saying if a man cheats, just kick him out. Let me clarify, my husband isn't some worthless man I can kick away without consequences. He's a money tree, and I'm not letting go. Chapter 1. There are 2 kinds of rich people in this world. Those who make the Forbes list with visible, measurable wealth, and those who can quietly mobilize massive resources and capital behind the scenes. Luis, my husband, is the second type. He's virtually invisible to the public eye, yet he manages assets close to 1 trillion yuan. If he wants something done, very few things are out of reach. I'm very clear-eyed about this. If Luis wants to divorce me, and he really sets his mind to it, I could be kicked out with nothing, not even a dime, if he doesn't bury me in debt and ruin my life. That's already mercy, and after 20+ years together, maybe he wouldn't be that ruthless. But still, why should someone else pick the fruit of the tree I've worked so hard to grow? At my age, I've long let go of childish ideas about love. Sleep with whomever you want. I don't care. But touch my money? Not a chance. The problem is, this mistress is high level. First, she's younger and prettier, more presentable for a man to show off. Second, she knows exactly how to handle a man. She's playing the role of a pure, innocent lover straight out of a romance novel. She never asks Luis for money or resources. She never begs to be made official. She just loves him, pure and simple. She willingly plays the mistress, as long as he shows up at her door from time to time. That's enough for her. As she puts it, her own income is high enough. She doesn't need him to support her. She only wants love. Sounds great, right? But behind every project she's done, there's his resources, his endorsement. She does execute well, I admit, but she knows perfectly well, without Luis backing her, she wouldn't land a single project. And they're in the same industry, finance, with endless things to talk about. Meanwhile, I've been a housewife for years. In terms of intellect and conversation, I can't keep up. Luis and I don't connect on that level anymore. She doesn't pressure him. She provides premium emotional value. What man wouldn't fall for that? And finally, the most important thing, Luis was her first man. And I know my husband, he has a serious virgin complex. I'm guessing he feels deep guilt and responsibility for her. The more she asks for nothing, the more Luis feels he owes her for life. The only reason he hasn't divorced me yet is probably because I gave him 3 children. But he's already publicly praised her more than once, talking about how brilliant she is, how much she's helped his career. She has completely overshadowed me. A war is coming, and the only card I still hold is the tiny bit of sentiment Luis still has left for me. That's why, during postpartum confinement, I lost 20 pounds from the stress. I don't know if, by the time our baby turns 1, our marriage will still exist. To be honest, I'm not afraid of being without a man, but I have 3 kids. My eldest son just started college, majoring in finance. In this industry, without his father's resources, the path ahead will be very difficult. My second daughter is in an international high school. Her annual expenses hit the million yuan mark. She's planning to study art abroad. Without tens of millions in investment, she won't make a name for herself. Then there's the surprise third child, a baby boy. His first month's medical bills alone probably cost more than what a regular person earns in a year. And behind me, I still have elderly parents to care for. Last year, my dad caught a mild cold and ended up in the ICU. 20,000 yuan a day. He was hospitalized for half a year. If my money tree husband hadn't paid the bills, I probably wouldn't have a father anymore. All of this means I can't afford to leave Luis. If I could, who wouldn't want to live like a drama heroine? Capable, self-sufficient, solving everything with her own hands? But sadly, I'm just an average woman. I didn't ace the exams into Tsinghua or Peking University. I don't come from a wealthy family. I have no cheat codes, no golden finger. The only thing I ever had was my beauty, and now, even that is fading. But never, never underestimate a mother fighting to protect her family. If I can't take Luis down, then maybe it's time to make a move on the mistress, Elena. Chapter 2. Just after my postpartum recovery, I went to see someone, Pablo. He's a guy I met at a bar, a streetwise flirt, but also the most advanced PUA master I've ever seen. I once watched him charm a gorgeous bombshell with just a glass of water. Within a few days, he walked away coolly, and the girl was crying her eyes out, saying she couldn't live without him. Back then, I'd heard my second daughter was clubbing with classmates. I panicked, tracked down the bar they frequented, and invested a little money there to make sure they stayed safe. That's when Pablo showed up. The staff couldn't decide what to do about him and told me to come take a look myself. So I hid behind the counter and witnessed his whole pickup game in secret. Afterward, I warned him never to hunt again in my bar. He gave me a wicked sidelong glance, the kind that makes your soul tremble. Just that one glance, and I finally understood the ancient saying, one look can steal your soul. Luckily, I had already done my homework on him. Otherwise, even I might have felt something under that stare. Seeing I didn't react much, he blew a lazy puff of smoke and said, "Too much mom energy. Boring." Then handed me his business card. "Let's be friends. Who knows, one day you might need me." I remember thinking, why the hell would I ever need a sleazy pickup artist? Turns out, I was so wrong. When I saw him again, he was more charming than ever. Messy, dangerous, confident, like a vampire lurking in the night, mysterious, reckless, and sexually magnetic. Beautiful boss lady. You finally came to me? You were right, I said. I need your help. He raised an eyebrow and motioned for me to continue. I told him the whole story, how the mistress was pushing for divorce. The job was simple, seduce Elena, even just once. With Luis's personality, that would be enough to make him cut her off for good. That's a high-difficulty mission, he said, rubbing his chin like he was thinking hard. Name your price. A woman like Elena isn't easily fooled. I'll need to present myself as a diamond bachelor. Private jets, yachts, luxury cars, watches, the works. I need a big budget to make it convincing. Come on, I said. I'm not made of money. You've already flaunted all that on your social media. You own the clothes and accessories. And I know someone like you can easily find budget-friendly solutions for the rest. Damn, you're stingy, he said. The mistress is already knocking at your door. And you're still too cheap to bleed a little? I just don't want to be scammed before we even get to the divorce. You don't trust me? Then why come to me at all? He pretended to walk off. I didn't bother stopping him. The bartender had already told me he's been drinking cheap booze lately, probably down on his luck. Hey, aren't you going to try to keep me? He finally cracked and came back. I'm the client. I'm hiring someone for a job. If you don't want to take the gig, I'll find someone else. I'm sure your little seduction academy has plenty of graduates, right? He chuckled and didn't argue, but he sat right back down across from me. 500 grand. If you succeed, I'll pay you 500,000 as a service fee. All additional expenses, itemized reimbursement. You'll wear monitoring equipment at all times. I want full access to observe the operation. This time, he didn't posture. He agreed right away, just when I was preparing for some carefully orchestrated accidental encounter. Ready to deploy Pablo into Elena's orbit, he gave me a master class. That was the first time I realized what it meant to be a true pickup artist. It didn't take long for Pablo and Elena to have their first moment of intimacy. Chapter 3. I meticulously organized Elena's profile into a detailed dossier and handed it to Pablo. He gave it a quick glance, then locked eyes with the photo, muttering bluntly, "Widow face, easy target," and tossed the folder back at me. You're not going to properly research the target? Even romance scammers draw up a few plans. Elena's at least a semi-rich socialite. You could show a little respect for the client. Client? He suddenly leaned in, getting uncomfortably close. his eyes locking with mine, breath brushing my cheek, tone dripping with innuendo. Whoever pays is the client. If I'm showing respect, it should be to you, right? I immediately grabbed Elena's file and smacked it across his face, pushing him back hard. Ow, ow. I paid good money for this nose job. If it breaks, you're covering the cost. Screw your nose. Rule number 1, no harassing the employer. This guy was too flirtatious. If I didn't set some boundaries now, this kind of thing would keep happening. He gave me a sidelong smirk. No fun at all. Then grabbed the bug I'd given him and, back turned, flashed me an okay sign. 1 month. Get your husband out of the picture. Don't interfere. 1 month? Elena's no idiot. He was being cocky. I was already starting to regret hiring him. But that concern vanished the moment I saw their first interaction. That day, at the mall, I was sitting on the second floor at Starbucks, watching Pablo approach Elena. He smiled as he walked toward her. But the smile was different this time, gentlemanly, restrained. He wore a crimson Angora sweater, same as one from Luigi's winter campaign. It gave him a warm, composed presence, like someone born into privilege, raised with etiquette. With his strong features and sharp bone structure, he gave off the perfect vibe, a handsome, rich but slightly dopey young aristocrat. I thought he was going straight for Elena. But instead, he approached the older woman beside her, Elena's mother. Excuse me, I found this card. Could it be yours? It was a restaurant membership card, elegantly designed, bearing the characters for the humble room. That's a niche private kitchen known for its exclusivity. Like its name, it hosts quiet gatherings of discreet wealth. Not necessarily intellectuals, but definitely people with money. God knows where Pablo got that prop. Elena's mother, of course, said it wasn't hers. But I saw the look in Elena's eyes linger on that card. Pablo offered an awkward, bashful smile, scratched the back of his head. Sorry if this is a bit forward, but I'd really like to get to know your daughter. I thought I should ask your permission first. Elena's mom probably hadn't been approached like that by a young, handsome man in decades. She looked over at Elena, then smiled graciously. You youngsters, why not? Go ahead and get to know each other. Elena was the golden phoenix who flew out of a shabby alley, the pride of her family. Everyone around praised her good fortune for raising such a successful daughter. Since childhood, Elena's status in the family had subtly surpassed even her mother's. Perhaps this was the first time in her life that she was truly respected, finally able to wield the authority of a mother figure. Pablo's words, seemingly casual, were masterfully calculated. And Elena? All finance women are gold diggers, no exceptions. Pablo, with his old money style, the glimpse of a Patek Philippe on his wrist, and an exclusive restaurant membership card only real insiders would recognize, was more than enough to lure her in. Sure enough, she extended her hand generously. Tianyuan Securities. Elena, haven't we met before? Pablo, seemingly dazzled by her confident charm, shook her hand with the perfect amount of restraint. I don't think so. If we had, I'm sure you'd already be in my contacts. Pablo grinned with bright, white teeth, putting on that dumb but hot act that made him look like an easy mark. Soon after, the two of them naturally exchanged WeChat info. I took the opportunity to check out Pablo's newly curated social media feed. It was full of screenshots from Codeforce's Round, one of the world's top programming competitions, where he'd been solving problems like a pro. Scrolling back, there was even a photo of him attending the royal ascot at an English estate. Just like that, he crafted the image of a rich genius from a prestigious background. The photos were edited well, the timeline seamless. If I didn't know his real background, even I might have been fooled. No doubt he manages a few alt accounts for professional image crafting. Now that Pablo's side was progressing smoothly, I needed to move too. The baby's 100-day banquet was coming up. It was the perfect time to strike an emotional blow. Chapter 4. Luis had a child late in life, and now his career is booming. No doubt many people were lining up to curry favor with him. Originally, the 100-day banquet was supposed to be a grand event, but I suggested we keep it modest, just invite the people who absolutely had to be there and keep it intimate. Luis didn't object. After all these years, he was sick of all the social banquets and empty networking. Honestly, He's a real genius, he just hates explaining himself to us mere mortals. But now that he's in a management position, he's forced to deal with all kinds of social games. So, he completely agreed with my proposal. We booked a private chef restaurant for the event. The owner showed great respect to Luis and reserved the entire second floor for us. Even so, the guest list kept expanding until the place was packed. It was a full house, full of joy and laughter. I knew that moments like these were the hardest for Elena. She knew very well, as long as she wasn't officially accepted, she would never celebrate a proper holiday with Luis. As long as she wasn't official, Luis could be summoned away at any time by a family call. As long as she wasn't official, she'd have to endure the cold stares and scorn of others. She was patient, she'd endured for years, pretending to be gracious and unbothered, accumulating guilt in Luis's heart. But I'd already found out that she had frozen her eggs, and had even convinced Luis to go for a fertility consultation. I knew Luis was starting to waver, no matter how nicely she put it. All she wanted was a child carrying her surname once she aged out of her prime. But once that child was born, he would inevitably divert Luis's affection and the family's resources. Luis had even met with a lawyer to discuss divorce plans with me. So I couldn't wait any longer. On the day of the banquet, I had Pablo invite Elena out to dinner. I knew she would go. People are strange like that, knowing it will hurt to watch, yet unable to resist looking. 3 years ago, during my mother-in-law's grand birthday celebration, she hid by the side door just to peek in. This time would be no different. What I didn't expect was that she'd show up wearing the exact same red dress as mine, while I was upstairs toasting and basking in attention. I couldn't help but wonder, down in the public dining area, what was she feeling? The final ceremony of the baby's 100-day banquet was sharing the 100-day rice cakes with the guests. I had the kitchen prepare a large batch, enough to hand out to the diners on the first floor too, to share the joy and bring good luck. Through the earpiece connected to Pablo's wire, I heard Elena's cold voice. I just can't stand these backward Chinese customs. Family business. Yet they have to broadcast it to the entire world. Her sour tone was practically seeping through the floors. I knew the timing was right. Cradling the baby, I gracefully descended to the first floor, found a quiet corner, loosened my collar, and began breastfeeding. I covered the essential parts with a silk scarf, but it was clear to everyone what I was doing. Perhaps we've lived too long in this so-called civilized society. A half-exposed cleavage on a red carpet is called sexy and trendy, but a mother breastfeeding her child is seen as improper and indecent. Sure enough, a young waitress came over and bluntly said, "Ma'am, this is a public place. What you're doing is not appropriate. But my child is hungry. I have to feed him. You can go to the restroom to do that. This is a restaurant. What you're doing is unsightly. Then why don't you go eat your dinner in the toilet? Isn't this a restaurant? Why can't my child eat here too? You're just being unreasonable now. Your behavior is making our customers uncomfortable. Please leave." I exploded. What exactly is your problem with me breastfeeding? Were you not born of a mother? Didn't you drink milk as a baby? Who's uncomfortable? Show me. My voice was loud, drawing every eye in the restaurant. The better-mannered men quickly averted their gaze, instead glaring at the waitress. The women's expressions were complex, some sympathetic, some resigned. The waitress raised her voice in return. "We must have received complaints. That's why we asked you to leave. Please show some respect for yourself." Who complained? Who's so tasteless they'd report a mother feeding her baby? The waitress turned pale, unable to answer. Then, Elena stood up. "I did." "What now? Who's the real disgrace here?" "Broad daylight. Public setting. Flashing your body. What kind of backwoods barbarian are you? People like you don't deserve." She didn't finish the sentence. Luis had come downstairs. I don't think he had ever seen this side of Elena before. He froze on the spot. But with years of training in emotional control, he collected himself quickly, removed his jacket, and draped it over me and the baby. Seeing the dark look on his face, I whispered. The smoke and alcohol upstairs were too much. The baby was hungry. I had no choice. Something about the moment must have struck a nerve. He gently leaned down and said softly, "That's my fault. I should have taken better care of you too." Then he turned to the owner of the restaurant, who had followed him down. "Sorry, boss. My wife needs to nurse. Could you get a screen for her?" The owner smacked his forehead and exclaimed, "Oh my! I truly failed to take care of the lady and young master. This meal's on the house, please let me make it up to you." By now, the once aggressive waitress had vanished. I knew she wouldn't keep her job after this, so I had already paid her 10,000 yuan to act out the scene with me. I'd also slipped a mild sedative into the piece of rice cake she handed Elena, nothing dangerous. Just enough to heighten her emotions. Luis defending me only made Elena more agitated, fueled by the drug. She kicked over the screen. The loud crash startled the baby into crying. I quickly held him close, shrinking into the corner. "What are you pretending for? Acting like some sweet little coquette at your age? Breastfeeding in public, do you have no shame? Have you looked at yourself? Not a single man in the hall is even glancing at you. You think you're hot stuff? What a joke!" It was the most degrading thing I'd ever heard in my life, and from Elena, who had always been seen as gentle and elegant. Even more absurd. I hadn't even cried yet, she started crying first. While sobbing, she pointed at Luis and shouted, "Look at you! You treat that trash like treasure. Golden jewels for a useless leech, she doesn't deserve it. I can't even see your face right now, but your back was trembling, you were that angry." The guests upstairs had started coming down. Drawn by the commotion, I wanted Luis to slap Elena across the face. But after all, she was the woman he'd loved for years, he couldn't bring himself to do it. He only turned to the restaurant owner and said, "Boss, get someone to take this lunatic out. Sorry for the trouble." But Elena had clearly snapped, eyes bloodshot. She lunged at Luis, clawing at him. 2 security guards struggled to drag her out. "Luis, how dare you? How dare you protect her? What even is she? Just because she gave you a few kids? I can do that too. You heartless bastard. I waited all these years, and this is how you repay me? Don't think I need you. I've got plenty of men chasing after me." Okay. That drug hit way harder than expected. I was sure I hadn't given her that strong a dose. Not out of kindness, but because I didn't want her to detect something was off. Then I noticed Pablo in the corner, swirling his wine glass. Crap. The drug mixed with alcohol, no wonder it escalated. And seeing him quietly pour his wine into a flower pot like some sly operator. Wait, did he slip her something too? Let's hope nobody dies. I shot him a look, signaling him to go help Elena. Meanwhile, Luis's face was a complete disaster, humiliated beyond belief. To make it worse, his mother fainted on the spot, and his sister frantically called for an ambulance. The crowd slowly dispersed. But the secretly recorded videos? Those would keep the gossip mill fed for months. Chapter 5. Despite Luis initiating PR cleanup immediately, some video clips still leaked online. Shameless mistress assaults the wife. Finance exec Luis cheats with pregnant subordinate. Headlines like these kept trending. Luis was summoned for a talk with the authorities. Within days, a new assignment arrived. He was reassigned to London to escape the media frenzy. With no return date specified, Elena's contract expired and was quietly not renewed. She left voluntarily. Originally, I just wanted Luis to see another side of Elena, cool off a bit, and create space for Pablo to step in. I didn't expect things to spiral this far. Until one day, I saw the login screen of a gossip video account on my eldest son's computer. Only then did I realize he was protecting me in his own way. I knocked him gently on the head and teased, "When you graduate, if your dad hasn't transferred back, you might not get as many easy breaks." He looked at me seriously and said, "Mom, trust me, even without dad, I can still give you a good life. You don't need to suffer like this for me." I hugged him silently. He hasn't been bruised by the real world yet. He has no idea how important a father like Luis is for his future. Times have changed these days. It's almost impossible for kids from humble backgrounds to rise on their own. What shocked me more was that Pablo told me he hadn't drugged Elena that night. It was my younger daughter. She had used truth serum. Who knows where she even got such shady stuff. When I pressed her, she clenched her fists and said nothing, just gave me a firm look. "Don't worry, Mom, I won't turn bad." And that's when I realized my children had grown up quietly, out of my sight. But they were still too young. If Luis ever found out what they had done, the consequences would be unimaginable. I quietly hired a PR firm to take down the posts and erase any trace of my son's involvement. As for my daughter, as long as Luis let go of Elena, Her mistake would just look like a child trying to protect her parents' marriage. I know Luis too well. He's sentimental. I was the wife who stuck with him through thick and thin. I sold my family's property to help him build his first business. Even if he no longer loves me, he never denied me dignity. But Elena, she's that unforgettable red mole on the heart. As long as she didn't cross a major line, one tear and a few pleas would always make her his so-called soulmate. So in the end, the deciding factor was Pablo. With Luis out of the picture for now, we needed to act fast. And yet, Pablo told me he wanted out. Chapter 6. Where's the fun? A fallen queen isn't worth chasing. Elena's groveling at my feet now, begging me to take her to London. Oh right. Your persona includes royal British connections. Is she trying to play the female lead again? Show up in front of Luis as some woman who's rebuilt her life through high-value social ties? Yeah, that whole strong, independent woman act, that's Luis's type. Pablo twirled his coffee spoon and smiled. The one who knows you best isn't your family. It's your enemy. Elena's biggest mistake was choosing you as her opponent. If she'd picked another target, she'd have become Luis's official partner by now. You're sympathizing with your prey? Not really. I just find it boring now. I'll pay more. Another 300,000. Give my kids a lesson while you're at it. Teach them how to spot emotional con artists like you. He sighed. Man, I'm starting to envy them. With a mom like you, how could they not turn out smart? Life is war, and if my kids have to step onto the battlefield, let it be with me leading the charge. Better they see the truth of male-female dynamics early, than stumble blindly later. After the bonus, Pablo became much more enthusiastic. Listen, kid, rule number 1 of seduction, a man should always lead the emotional escalation. Never be a simp. Chasing women blindly only earns you a pat on the head and a place in the friend zone. My daughter rolled her eyes. Seriously? That's such outdated, patriarchal thinking. Only low-awareness girls fall for that crap. Pablo wasn't offended. He smiled and asked, then tell me, what's the most important thing for a girl in a relationship? She froze. Clearly, she hadn't thought that far. Security, Pablo said. No matter their age, women want to feel safe. Now ask yourself, will a guy groveling behind you give you that sense of safety? Or the one walking ahead, cutting the path through the woods? This time, my daughter didn't snap back. She simply nodded. Deep in thought, Pablo turned to my son again. Listen, bro, never let a woman lead you by the nose. Most of the time, even they don't realize how much they crave being led. Got it? My son looked proud, like he was thinking, seriously? This is what we're wasting time learning? So Pablo threw him a situational quiz. You approach a pretty girl on the street and say, hey, I'd like to get to know you. She gives one of the following responses. Guess which one means you've got a shot. First, can I help you with something? Second, why should I want to know you? Third, whoa, you scared me. My son, who'd never cold approached a girl in his life, scratched his head. What's the difference? Bro, Pablo said, you don't have to be a simp, but if you don't understand how women think, you'll be single forever. Here's the first thing to know, female thinking is rooted in the present moment. And the second, it's relational, about connection. If you don't grasp those two things, you'll kill the vibe before it starts. Let me give you an example. He continued. You text a girl, what are you up to? She replies, studying. What do you say next? What are you studying? My son said weakly. Pablo picked it up, English. I'm preparing for the IELTS exam. My son hesitated. Then maybe I say, I can help you prep for it. Before Pablo could reply, my daughter burst out laughing. Bro, you're flirting, not applying for a tutor gig. Pablo chuckled too. This is classic logical male brain, always trying to fix something or give a solution. So how should you respond? My son asked. You don't go up, Pablo said. You go down, into the emotion. Let's run that again. I'll show you. They role-played. What are you doing? Studying. Oh. Same here. I'm worn out though. Thought I'd check if you're just as tired. A little. Yeah. Then let's grab a break. I know a great place for afternoon tea. At that moment, my kids finally understood why some people's words are just comforting, even if their intentions aren't. That's called emotional mirroring, always responding to someone's feeling in the moment. Okay, back to the quiz, Pablo said. Which answer had the most potential? My son, the academic type, quickly applied the theory. The third one. You scared me. It's the only one that connects to an immediate emotion. Pablo smirked. Pleased. Good. Next lesson. Over the next few days, Pablo became like a university professor, teaching them everything from anthropology to sociology, behavioral psychology to neuroscience, breaking down male and female cognitive structures. When he finally reached the biological chapter, I quietly stepped out. As their mother, it didn't feel appropriate to stay. I couldn't quite explain how I felt. My children were no longer mine. They were becoming themselves. And I had underestimated Pablo. With his intellect, he could have done anything. Why waste it on relationship games and manipulation? I once asked him, with your skills, you could run a love scam, steal from rich divorcees, and be financially free. Why work as a relationship bounty hunter? He looked at me like I was dumb. Ma'am, conning for money is illegal. True, emotional fraud may be morally awful, but financial fraud is criminal. I asked again why he didn't go legit. He dodged the question every time. Oh well, everyone has their secrets. I'm just the employer, not his mom, not my business. Chapter 7. A few days later, my son and daughter personally came up with a full strategy for Pablo to seduce Elena. Their proposed date plan went like this. Saturday, 5 p.m., invite Elena to a conveyor belt sushi place within 3 kilometers of Pablo's apartment. 6 p.m., finish dinner. Suggest a casual city walk and buy some grapes and pomelos from a fruit stand. 6:30 p.m., invite Elena back home to cut fruit and walk the dog. 7 p.m., return home from walking the dog. Escalate physically. Close the deal. At first, I thought, isn't this a bit too simple? Can it really be that easy? But Pablo nodded approvingly. These two rookies are ready to graduate. The plan looked simple, but was filled with strategy. First of all, why conveyor belt sushi? Unlike traditional restaurants, the seating is side by side instead of face to face, which creates more natural opportunities for subtle physical contact. Plus, the dining experience is casual and uninterrupted, allowing emotional escalation to build continuously, creating a romantic vibe. Second, why 5 p.m.? Sushi is fast. By 6 p.m., dinner's over but it's still light outside. Elena's subconscious defenses won't be triggered. Pablo could then suggest a walk nearby, naturally leading them to a fruit stand. And it was crucial that the fruit wasn't ready to eat like bananas or oranges, but something like grapes and pomelos, items that require washing or peeling. This gave him the perfect excuse to say, let's go back to my place to prep them. It's subtle. Most women would think, it's still early. It's just fruit. Once they've eaten, suggesting a walk with the dog becomes effortless. Puppies are cute. Who can say no? But what goes out must come back. Elena returning to Pablo's place a second time creates psychological familiarity. Humans are shaped by their environments. The second entry feels safer, less guarded. Then dim lighting, low-frequency background music, all lower rationality and moral resistance. The rest? Predictable. By the time Pablo finished explaining, I couldn't close my mouth in shock. I never raised them to be naive, but this level of strategic manipulation was terrifying. Pablo casually picked up a few items on the table. See this? Your daughter prepared all of it, oversized cotton t-shirts, contact lens solution, fresh towels, toothbrushes, makeup remover. She's leaving Elena no excuse to back out. Because women, at that last moment, often hesitate. No clothes to change into. No toiletries, small things that make them say no to staying overnight. I started to doubt myself. Did I push them to grow up too fast? Sensing my concern, Pablo said slowly, ever heard of family office operations? His gaze turned distant, staring past the window into some unknown void. I've heard the term, but our family doesn't have that kind of heritage. At 16, I'd been sent to train for a year on an island, surrounded by people from all walks of life. The family office folks brought dozens of women, tall, petite, pale, dark-skinned. To me, they all looked the same. I was desensitized. I'd never fall for a woman. If your children can see through romantic illusions early on, they won't suffer in love later. But something felt off. Years later, when I watched them bury themselves in work, obsessed with money and success, I finally realized I'd made a mistake. They wouldn't be hurt by love, but they also couldn't love anymore. That's a story for another time. Right now, I was still deep in the game. What caught my attention most was this: Pablo had a family office background. He was trained? Then why was he short on money? Doesn't your family give you money? I asked. Pablo lowered his head, smiled bitterly. Family fortunes gone downhill, not worth mentioning. Then he pulled out a cigarette and stepped outside alone, surrounded by smoke. His silhouette looked lonely, even dangerous, and I suddenly regretted hiring him without doing a background check. But it was too late. The arrow was already on the string. For safety, I sent the kids back to school. I told them not to get involved anymore, not to contact Pablo either. They'd grown up a lot during all this. Maybe they didn't know the full picture, but they knew this much. In the dark, the only one they could trust was Mom. Before leaving, my son said solemnly, "Mom, do what you have to do. Don't worry about me, even without Dad. I can take care of you and my siblings." Childish bravado, but still sweet to hear. I patted their heads and said goodbye. On Pablo's end, everything was going smoothly. He layered it well, gentle, patient, and knew exactly how to speak to a woman's heart. I could clearly see Elena's eyes shift from guarded to smitten. On the day of the operation, she gave in even faster than expected. She thought it was just a romantic encounter. Little did she know, every detail was orchestrated. There's no such thing as a perfect lover. If you meet one, watch out. Because just like now, on the other side of the hidden 4K camera facing the bed, I was watching the live stream. From this moment forward, Elena could never be a threat to me again. I thought that would be the end. Mission complete. I could end my contract with Pablo. But things spiraled beyond my control. Pablo had an agenda of his own. Chapter 8. The next morning, I habitually turned on the surveillance camera. On screen, Elena was on her knees, tearfully begging Pablo to forgive her. In front of her, Pablo had lined up several glass cups on the floor. Without a word, he smashed them one by one with a hammer. The sound of glass shattering under metal was so sharp it made my heart skip, even through the screen. But what was even more terrifying was this: after breaking them all, he grabbed a handful of shards and pressed them hard into his own thigh. Blood seeped through his white pajamas in bright, scarlet patches. He didn't flinch, as if pain didn't exist. He self-harmed expressionlessly. He didn't stop until Elena, sobbing, shouted exactly what he wanted to hear. "I love you. I only love you. I'll always love only you." Then he wrapped her in a twisted embrace and muttered neurotically, "Baby, I can't stand it. I love you too much, but you've been with other men. What if you go back to him? What if you fall in love with someone else? Don't you know? I can't lose you." Elena gently stroked the face of the seemingly fragile man and whispered, "I won't leave you. I'll only be yours. From now on." "No, I don't believe you," he said. "You have to prove it to me." "How?" "I want you to make me breakfast every day. No more takeout. You'll make it yourself." In a soft, syrupy tone, she answered, "Okay, for you. I'll learn to cook. But promise me, go clean your wounds first." And just like that, Elena, the woman who'd never touched a kitchen in her life, was going to wash vegetables and cook porridge. Even Luis had never gotten that kind of devotion. As Elena left the room to get the first aid kit, I watched Pablo glance at the camera and whisper, "This is the after-sales service." I quickly texted him, "This is enough. Call it off. You can back out now." He replied languidly, "Sis, you're so hard to please." Then, pale and smiling faintly, he held up a heart shape toward the camera. I sent another message, "Don't do anything crazy. Let her go. I'll pay you more." No reply. I tried to send another message, only to find out he had blocked me. I transferred money to the account we agreed on. Payment declined. I called Elena. Blocked. And in the camera feed, Pablo was still smiling. Cold, empty, panicked. I rushed to the rental apartment I'd originally arranged. I wanted to stop this before it went too far, but I couldn't get in. The door code had changed. The landlord had also blocked me. I was officially scared. What was he going to do? I couldn't even call the police. What would I say? They were just dating. I was the one spying. Given Elena's relationship with me, if I really brought in law enforcement, she could sue me for harassment. So I could only watch as Pablo systematically broke her. Obedience tests escalated, from cooking breakfast, to scaling fish, to letting Pablo tattoo words on her skin. Even something as innocent as Elena showing affection to a puppy was forbidden. And under Pablo's command, Elena killed that tiny, fluffy poodle with her own hands. From that moment on, Pablo began calling her mommy, and Elena completely lost her moral compass. She let him take anything he wanted. Until, one day, I saw the once proud, untouchable Elena on her knees, barking like a dog, repeating over and over, "I'm trash. I'm a filthy whore. I don't deserve to be human." And Pablo, stone-faced, just kept smashing glass. Days later, I saw different men in the bed on screen, young and old, but they all had one thing in common. They were all connected to Luis. His former teachers, his classmates, his uncles, nephews, and co-workers. It was then I finally realized. Pablo's target wasn't Elena. It was Luis. Elena had been with Luis for years. Their connection was no secret in his social circle. And now, Pablo had made her sleep with everyone in Luis's world. How could Luis ever hold his head up again? On camera, Pablo's bloodshot eyes stared at me. He whispered, "Satisfied? I didn't just deal with the mistress. I took care of your scumbag husband, too." All I felt was fear. Chapter 9. 3 months later, they left that house and that city. I was finally removed from Elena's blacklist. From her social media, I saw that Pablo and Elena had both gone to the UK. In one photo, Pablo was holding a visibly stiff Elena, smiling for a group picture. The background was the Ascot estate. Standing nearby was Luis, his face dark as a storm. Elena had finally gotten what she wanted, access to British high society. But she could no longer tilt her chin and act sweet in front of Luis. Luis's superior reached out to me and asked me to come to London. "Sister-in-law, Luis hasn't been in a good state lately. Could you come and be with him for a while?" I felt guilty and replied, "It's hard for me to leave right now. The baby is still young, and my mother-in-law is sick." The man on the other end paused, then said, "I know old Luis wronged you, but this is a special time. We're in the middle of a financial war. I can't say too much, but Luis is a key asset. His current condition could cost us dearly. But will it help if I go? You two have been together since youth. You understand him better than anyone." Faced with a matter of greater importance, I let go of my resentment and moved into Luis's house in London. The day he saw me, he silently held me for a long time. I didn't say much. I just cooked meals and brought them to his office. British food was just too awful. I brought our youngest child with me. It was hard to find help in the UK, so I managed on my own. At night, Luis would come home and help bathe the baby and read bedtime stories. It felt like we were newlyweds again. One day, Luis said he wanted braised pork belly, so I strapped the baby on my back and took a taxi 30 kilometers to a Chinese supermarket. British pork tasted different, gamey, almost like biting into a pig's rear. Only the Chinese supermarket sold decent cuts. I never expected to run into Pablo there. "Sister, long time no see." He flashed that dazzling smile. I wasn't in the mood for small talk. "Who are you really?" "Me? Just a street punk. Your original target, it was me, wasn't it?" He chuckled, his handsome face like a dew-covered black rose, just like the first time I met him. Mysterious and seductive. "Yeah, too bad I wasn't charming enough. You never showed any interest." That wasn't entirely true. I had been interested, but back then, maternal instincts drowned out all desire. I lived in fear of being abandoned after divorce. I didn't dare want anything else. "Did you come here just to see me?" "Yeah, to thank you. You gave me a chance. I've made a major contribution this time, and money won't be a problem anymore." I wanted to ask more, but the baby started fussing, probably needed a diaper change. Pablo took my bags and naturally led me to the mother and baby room in the store. "Sister, I envy your kids. They have a mother who's sharp and resilient. If only my mom had half your strength." In that tiny room, I heard a story. A mistress defeated the legal wife, The wife left with one of her twin sons and wandered in poverty. She died sick and alone. In the end, the mistress lived in luxury. This world doesn't reward morals, it rewards position. The two twins lived very different lives. The older stayed with the wealthy father, top schools, tech genius. Just like Pablo showed off on social media. No wonder Elena, with all her cunning, didn't see through the illusion. It was all true. The younger twin followed the mother, moving from place to place. When the mother died, he had no choice but to return to his father's house, only to find there was no place left for him. He had to earn his spot back. That's why he was grateful for the chance I gave him. I could feel his sincerity. He had erased every trace of my involvement. Even if Luis dug into it later, Pablo was just a shadow of his twin brother. The mastermind remained in London, as long as I and the two children denied it. No transaction records. No overlapping movements. There'd be no hard evidence. You know, he said. I didn't just do it for the mission. I hate homewreckers. Elena deserved everything she got. How's Elena now? Oh, sacrificing herself for art. There's a body painting exhibition at Groucho Club in a few days. If you're curious, you could drop by. No thanks, I should get going. As I packed up, Pablo stepped forward intimately. Sister, we may not see each other again. Can I hug you once? You smell like my mom. His eyes were innocent and watery, like a little puppy. For a second, I almost said yes, but then something inside me twitched. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a faint red glow in the wall socket. A hidden camera. I knew that glow all too well. I quickly repositioned the baby to shield my chest. Smiled. No need to rush. We'll have plenty of chances. Today I've got the baby with me. It's not a good time. He looked disappointed. You won't grant even a small request? This was his turf. If he snapped, who knew what he might do? I hedged. The baby's not feeling well. I have to go. Next time I visit your place, I'll make dumplings for you. His eyes lit up. Really? Just tell me when. I'll prep all the ingredients. 3 days from now, I'll come back to this supermarket. With a bright grin, he helped me carry my bags and sent me off in the return cab. Chapter 10. As soon as I got home, I booked a flight back to China immediately. When Luis heard I was leaving, he was confused. So soon? Can't you wait a few more days? Wait a few days? There's no way I could afford to wait. I couldn't let him find out what happened with Pablo. So I snapped impatiently, blaming it on the London weather and terrible food. I just can't get used to living here. Luis suddenly dropped to his knees and wrapped his arms around my waist. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Honey, I made you suffer with me. When I saw those photos, this horrible thought popped into my head. Thank God you weren't in them. If even one of those pictures had you in it, I wouldn't have survived it. I mean it. I can't live without you. Please, don't leave. I didn't realize how sweet home smelled until the flowers outside rotted. But no one stays in place waiting forever. I spoke to my supervisor. This phase of the mission is done. You can come back and work in China. Or, come with me? I understood. A proud man like him couldn't bear returning to face all the gossip and humiliation. Can you stay? I'll get the kids over here. We'll all reunite in London. Wouldn't that be great? No, I said firmly. One by one, I peeled his fingers off me, rushed inside, and started packing my things. I didn't care about the intricacies between him and Pablo. I just knew one thing. If I didn't run now, I'd be in danger. Everyone has emotional weaknesses. Pablo could become any version of the ideal man, depending on the woman he's targeting. Elena was vain. He became the gentle, wealthy heir. I had a soft spot for the vulnerable. He played the pitiful, abandoned outcast. If even one photo of Pablo and me in an intimate pose existed, given Luis's fragile mental state, he'd snap. Not only would his career be over, his entire unit would face disaster. I didn't want that kind of blood on my hands. I couldn't afford to fight, but I could disappear. I ran straight to the airport. Only when I finally boarded the China Airlines flight did my heart settle. As soon as I landed, I saw the news. Gas leak in a London residential building causes fire. Several injured. These people, Pablo and his kind, they're ruthless. If psychological destruction didn't work, would they just turn to physical annihilation? My departure had been too perfectly timed. It didn't take long before the authorities brought me in for questioning. I stuck to one story. We had a fight. I came home out of anger. For the sake of my children's future, I couldn't afford even a speck on my record. Over in the UK, the investigation went in circles. They concluded it was an accident. But we all know, the world isn't that full of coincidences. In the end, the case was closed, just like that. Chapter 11. 3 months later, Luis returned to China, carrying, metaphorically, a lush field of green atop his head. He went back to the circles he knew best. And also, he was missing a leg. During that fire, a heavy beam pinned him down as he tried to escape. One of his legs was beyond saving and had to be amputated. His lungs had also suffered severe damage from smoke inhalation. After undergoing surgery in the UK, he couldn't stand the cold loneliness there any longer. So he came home to recover. I cheerfully sent him off to a rehabilitation center and, using the excuse of caring for the youngest child and my mother-in-law, I never visited him again. He tried calling the kids, asking them to come see him, but they all made excuses, saying they were too busy with school and would go when they had time. Ironically, it was his colleagues from work who came to visit him round after round. After the polite greetings and warm wishes, they would whisper about Elena's latest scandals with so-and-so. That so-and-so extended far beyond the men from the surveillance footage Luis had once seen. People began making up names, some from partner companies, some clients, even a handsome driver from logistics. Each story was described in vivid detail, as if they'd witnessed everything firsthand. Luis's standing collapsed in the industry due to Elena, and his own will to continue working disintegrated. Given his past contributions, the organization honored him and granted him early retirement. And so, he stayed at the rehab center permanently. During holidays, when the rest of the family went on trips, we didn't take him along. He had mobility issues. After all, when visiting relatives, considering some extended family members held grudges, we figured he wouldn't want to come. So, again, he was left behind. 1 year, during Chinese New Year, he insisted on coming home. I sent a generous gift package to the nurses, and they managed to pacify him. After the eldest son graduated, he didn't go into finance. Instead, he joined the internet industry. He said Pablo's lessons on how women think were perfect for product design. He kept his word. He built a successful career entirely on his own. Without Luis's help, our second daughter decided not to study abroad after all. She retook the entrance exam and got into a top domestic university. That took a huge financial burden off my shoulders. As for the youngest, though mischievous, he was the most emotionally attentive. That tiny little boy sighed and said, "You're all so busy. Someone has to stay home with mom." I'll be the one. The last time I saw Luis was at our eldest son's engagement banquet. He had to show up for appearances, so I made the boy go and pick him up. Luis looked like he'd aged 20 years. Logically, a life in the countryside rehab center, with fresh air, organic food, and a stable routine, should have been good for him. But when we stood side by side, he looked at least a decade older than me. After the party, he looked at me and murmured, "The house is yours. The kids are yours. I'm the extra." I said nothing. Over the years, the kids had encouraged me to divorce him more than once, but I figured this arrangement was fine. Why compromise for another man? Why add more stress to my life? As for Pablo and Elena, I never saw them again. But 1 year, someone at a bar told me a woman was looking for me by name. I went over, and it was that spicy girl who had once been tricked by Pablo with nothing more than a glass of water. She no longer wore hot pants or crop tops. Her hair was tied back, and she looked gentle and composed. She handed me a note. Only 4 words were written on it. That wasn't me. The handwriting was elegant and flowing. What did it mean? Was she saying the man I'd seen at the Chinese supermarket in London wasn't Pablo, but his twin brother? So what? It didn't matter anymore. I smiled and asked, "Are you two together now?" She blushed and looked down. I guess he was right. He said you'd see through everything. Nothing escapes you. We passed by here, and he didn't have the nerve to face you again. He asked me to give you this note. Do you want to reply? Reporting spies is a citizen's duty. I've already called the police.